Hey guys, Callie here. So my channel is mostly known for my hysterectomy journey. That's what most of my viewers and subscribers watch my content for. That's what most of my content is. However, I did post a video a few years ago. It was actually while I was recovering from my hysterectomy, because I was confined to bed for weeks on end, and excuse me, and I got bored, and one day I just started like opening up about my eating disorder that I have overcome. Took me a very long time, and yeah, like I really enjoy helping people. I think that's been the biggest blessing of opening up about my hysterectomy. I knew that when I was about to go through with my hysterectomy, I looked online, YouTube in particular, just trying to find other women that I could relate to. And there really wasn't a whole lot out there. I mean, there was some, but especially for my situation in particular, I had a really hard time finding women that were in my specific situation. And so I was just like, this is kind of out of my element. But I was just like, I feel like I need to pay it forward. And I need to open up about my experience, because I know there's not many of us, but there's other women who are contemplating hysterectomies or going through with hysterectomies because of my same issues. So I did that, and I was shocked. My videos received thousands of views, and to this day I continue to get comments, and I try my best to respond to each and every one, like, quickly. I want women to know that I'm here for them, that I support them. It's a huge decision, and just to give other women hope, because we know when I was going through it, I was very scared, like second guessing myself, because there's some decisions that you can make in life that, like, if you decide, oh, this wasn't the right decision, you can kind of like take steps backwards and like, get out of it. But like, this is one of those things in life where once you make that decision and you go through with it, there's no turning back. When you have a total hysterectomy, I had everything removed, my ovaries, my uterus, my fallopian tubes, my cervix. I had everything removed, and there's no going back from that. And it's life-changing. The effects, the consequences, they are literally life-changing. And so, needless to say, I was terrified. And I don't know, being able to watch videos and hear other women that came out the other side and they were grateful, and it was wonderful. And goodness knows there are plenty of horror stories out there too, but what I have found is that, I don't know, I feel like people are a lot quicker to talk about their bad experiences, so like people have a horrible experience and they want to tell the whole world about it, but there are lots of women out there that have had hysterectomies, and they have gone on to live very healthy, happy lives. They don't regret it. They love their life. They love their decision, and we need to hear more from them. So I wanted to be one of those women. Anyway, but this video is actually not about my hysterectomy. That was a huge part of my life. It continues to be a huge blessing in my life. This year, 2025, in May, will mark 3 years since my hysterectomy. But I feel like I've kind of said all I can say in my videos. I do plan on doing an update video at my 3-year mark, just to let people know how I'm doing, But something that I noticed, like I said, from my hysterectomy videos, is I really enjoy helping others. And also, like I said, I continue to help women through the comments on my videos, and I love connecting with you guys that way. And I just want to continue helping other women. And just like all of us, I have had my own share of struggles in life, weaknesses, traumas, just really tough stuff in life. And some of it I'm still healing from, processing, overcoming, struggling with, but a lot of it I've been able to come out the other side. And stronger and wiser and better. And I just feel like it makes me kind of an ungrateful person, and I don't know, to just not continue to pay it forward, you know? I mustered the strength and the courage to say, okay, I think a total hysterectomy is what I need for my health to stop these hemorrhagic ovarian cysts. And I did have slight PMDD. It wasn't every month. I would say like half the time it was more than PMS, it was PMDD. And it had, you know, to varying degrees. But even, you know, there were things like that I didn't even realize that having the total hysterectomy would cure so many things, you know. So I went through it, and now I get to help other women, you know. And so yeah, I want to do that with this too. So I've actually already uploaded a video where I just kind of like an overview of my eating disorder, where I started, when it started, little about my journey, where I'm at now, how I got to where I'm at now. And yeah, but I kind of want to break it down a little bit, because I know that eating disorders are a huge problem among girls, women. Like, it's so bad. There's so much, especially with social media, there's so much pressure on all of us to be thin, you know. And I really don't like that. I really wish that the emphasis was on being healthy and not so much being thin, because the worldly standard of what's attractive is actually not very healthy. So anyway, so in this video, I want to kind of talk about triggers. And I do have some notes here because I don't want to forget stuff. And I want to start with emotional triggers. And this is for people that are currently struggling with eating disorders, people that maybe have overcome it, but they can still totally relate, or people that have a loved one, friend or family that has an eating disorder, and it might help you be a little more understanding and compassionate and patient. So yeah, I want to start with emotional triggers. Stress, I feel like, is a huge trigger. Yeah, whether it's work, school, family, like, stress is just incredibly triggering, you know. It's kind of food becomes a coping mechanism. And so, like, just as a disclaimer, for me, my eating disorder was mostly a binge eating disorder. And then, and you'll find that a lot of eating disorders, that's at the core of it, is it's actually a food addiction. And then with anorexia, people will, like, all or nothing, they'll kind of go way the other way. But it's not sustainable, you know. They'll do that for as long as they can, but they're either not eating at all, or when they are, they go totally crazy, because it's that all or nothing. Yeah, like, it's a way to control, like, yeah, that kind of a thing. Even with bulimia, you know, and mine manifested as bulimia. You would, on the surface, it looks like, oh, I don't want to talk too much about like details, because for me, I would have never even known about certain things if someone hadn't have brought it to my attention. But like, for me, people would say, oh, like, she abuses this whatever, so she's bulimic, you know. Like it's so hard to talk about in code. But I want to be real and open and honest. So like, for me, so bulimia can manifest in multiple ways. I feel like, in my opinion, like, not an academic, you know, definition here, but like, bulimia for me is when someone binge eats like an insane amount of calories, usually at one time, and then they'll like try to get rid of it. So like, a lot of people think bulimia and they think someone that makes themselves throw up. But it can actually be manifest in any kind of way of trying to like rid yourself of the overeating. It can be that. It can be making yourself throw up. It can be taking certain pills that will either make you throw up or come out the other end, or diuretics. So those were the different ways that mine manifested. I'm not a huge fan of making myself throw up, but I would abuse over-the-counter drugs that are very common with bulimia. So yeah, I do not want to be triggering at all. As I sit here talking about triggers, like that is not my goal, but I do want to have an open and honest conversation. So I will do my best to be sensitive and censored, but I will occasionally like talk about stuff like that, and I hope that that's okay. And I will absolutely put trigger warnings on these videos. Okay, so stress is a huge trigger, anxiety or depression. So for me, just from certain experiences in my childhood and my adolescence, I dealt with pretty much constant depression and anxiety. I still struggle with depression and anxiety, just nowhere near the degree that I used to throughout my teens and 20s. Loneliness. I feel like loneliness is a huge trigger. For me personally, it wasn't necessarily the loneliness per se, it was boredom. Like just lack of connection, just boredom that would kind of drive me. And then low self-esteem, again, because of certain experiences and traumas in my childhood and adolescence, I had very, very low self-esteem, like really bad, very insecure, very self-conscious, just incredibly low self-esteem. And then, like I mentioned, trauma. Trauma is a huge one. There are also environmental triggers, the diet culture and societal pressures that I already brushed on, huge. Social media, I feel like, is the biggest problem there. Just like comparing on social media and stuff, which is so unfair because it's just mostly fake anyway, but that's a huge trigger. Comments on appearance. And you know what's funny is that, like, for me, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, so it's not even like, oh, you look like you've gained a few pounds. Like, it wasn't even the negative comments on my appearance. For some reason, just any attention to my appearance at all was actually kind of triggering. Like, I actually had a teacher in junior high one time that, you know, we had summer break and came back. And, oh, no, that wasn't it. It was about to be summer break. And I had lost a ton of weight. My eating disorder was pretty bad. But, you know, I could say that, but my eating disorder could be bad if I was heavy, whether I was thin. Sometimes you couldn't even tell. Like, I just looked normal. But, yeah, there was really no textbook, like, oh, she's struggling with her eating disorder. Like, behind closed doors, what you saw on the surface wasn't really indicative of what I was actually dealing with. But anyway, at this time, I had lost a lot of weight. And one of my teachers in junior high, just in passing in the hallway, was like, oh, you've lost a lot of weight there, Callie. It must be getting to be swimsuit season, you know? And I was just like, just even the attention to my appearance in general was just kind of triggering for me. So, yeah. Like, it could even be well-intended. I absolutely think that was 100% well-intended. There was no malice or, you know, anything like that. But yeah. Or like comments about how you eat or what you eat, just any kind of comments like that. It just kind of triggers disordered thoughts, if that makes sense. Yeah, comparison to others. I mentioned social media, but even just in general, just seeing other girls. Yeah, like I don't have a very strong appearance on social media. I don't have TikTok, I don't have Snapchat, I don't have Instagram. I have YouTube and Facebook. That's about it. But yeah, a presence on social media, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, I don't really have much of a presence on social media because, well, I don't want it to be distracting for one, but also I have to be careful because social media, particularly for women, is so driven by comparison. And I can't even follow or be friends with girls or women that emphasize their bodies. So like, you'll never see me following gym influencers or like health fitness influencers, or just, you know, women that don't wear a lot of clothes. And it's not even a modesty issue necessarily. It's like, it's triggering for someone with an eating disorder. It's very triggering. And it has nothing to do with love or hate. Like, I've even had to not be connected with family on social media. And I mean, it is hard, you know, like, I don't ever want to seem like I don't like somebody or something like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's literally just me being self-aware and having boundaries. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with these people. They're not evil. They're not, you know, like, it's just, it's not you, it's me, you know, pretty much. But anyway, so, and then being surrounded with dieting behavior. So I have to also be really careful about like friends or family that have restrictive diets or disordered ways of eating or thoughts about eating or appearance or things like that. I have to be really careful about surrounding myself with people like that, because it can kind of normalize it for me again and kind of pull me back in. And so yeah, I have to be careful. Then there are situational triggers, like major life transitions, whether it's moving, starting a new job, starting a new relationship, ending a relationship, like anything like that. I have to like be really self-aware and like, you know, social events that are centered on food. Oh my gosh, I remember how triggering that was. Just like, because it is kind of a control thing for a lot of women. I mean, men having disorders too, but for me, it was like kind of a control thing. And like, it's you're totally not in control in those situations. Like, you don't know what food is going to be served. You know, it's like you have to make sure that, you know, because if you think people are watching you a lot more than they are, you know, but when you have an eating disorder, it's like you think all eyes are on you, you know? And I just remember I would always be like nervous about what kind of food would be served, and if I would, you know, wanting to strike a balance so that I wasn't eating too little, but that I didn't eat too much. And then like, just having so much stress and anxiety over the food that it made it hard for me to actually like be present and just connect with the people that I was around. So that was always hard. Conflicts and relationship issues, whether it's your love life or family or friends, those were triggering. Failure and rejection, those were big ones for me. Like, if I felt rejected by somebody, whether real or perceived, like sometimes it could send my thoughts and behaviors spiraling. So those could be triggering, or even just turning to food for comfort, you know? So, and then there are physical triggers, like being hungry. Like, that's the thing, is like you try, and I even notice this now, like if I'm ever trying to eat healthier or trying to like be more conscious about what I'm eating or how much or whatever, it's almost like the more you try not to overeat, the more aware you are of how hungry you are. And so yeah, even just like physical cues can be very triggering, you know? Oh my gosh, being tired was a physical trigger for me. Even now, like I notice if I don't get a good night of sleep, I'm much more likely to overeat the next day, and to like want sugary, like carb heavy foods. And changes in hormones. So I don't have this issue anymore because I've had a total hysterectomy, but my goodness, before my hysterectomy, that week leading up to my period, oh, it was so hard, so hard. I would want to eat everything I shouldn't. Like I said, all the carbs, all the chocolate, all the sugar, big problem. So yeah, hormonal fluctuations were huge triggers. Like, I feel like I need to like emphasize that one. Like, that was a huge one. And then I think having a history of like weight related bullying is a huge trigger. Like, even if it's not happening now, like even if it happened in the past, because I was overweight, which kind of started my eating disorder to begin with, is because in probably the 5th grade, I would say, which is when my body was preparing for puberty too. So I feel like it was hormonal even then. It was when my body started preparing for puberty, that's when I started having uncontrollable cravings. So yeah. But yeah, I would get kind of bullied about my weight because I did become chubby in the 5th grade. And I don't feel like I got it as bad as some kids, but there were comments. Yeah, and that definitely had an effect. And then I kind of touched on trauma, but that's another big one that I feel like I need to emphasize. Like hormones are a huge part of it for women, but also trauma, unresolved trauma. And then I wanted to end with that one because I will say there was a shift in my recovery, and it is all about trauma. Something that I have found personally is that with an eating disorder, trauma is a really big part of it for me and for lots of women and people in general. Like I said, you know, maybe one day I'll get into the different traumas that I have experienced, most of which were from my childhood and adolescence. I guess you could say I had 3 major traumas in my life. One was in my childhood, and some of these weren't just an isolated event. Some of these were like prolonged over years. You know, you can have like just situational, like things in the home that go on for years, you know? So anyway, one of them was mostly my childhood, one of them was mostly my adolescence, and one was in my early adulthood. I had 3 major traumas. And food was absolutely how it manifested. Those unresolved traumas manifested in my disordered way of eating, in my unhealthy relationship with food. And what I will say is that when I started opening up about my traumas, which is a very difficult thing to do, you are so vulnerable when you start opening up about that kind of like ugly, deep, dark, tough stuff. But for me, that is when the doors of recovery really opened. I started opening up about my childhood trauma. I started opening up about, there was an isolated trauma that I experienced in my adolescence. I started opening up about those things. And I swear that as I did that, the hold that my eating disorder had on me started to, like, the grip started to relax. And it was tangible, I could feel it. And so I don't know how that looks for different people. Honestly, if I could go back, I probably would do it a little bit differently. When I started opening up about those things, so I like to write. I really enjoy writing. It's an amazing outlet for me. It's the way that I express myself best. And I would just kind of blog or like write posts on my social media or whatever, just kind of going into my life experiences and sharing that with people and opening up and being very open and honest and vulnerable. And so like I'm sharing with like hundreds of family and friends at one time, you know, and it was amazing the influx of like comments, messages, text messages, phone calls of just love and support, and like people saying I had no idea, or like just people would say like, thank you so much for sharing this, I went through something similar, here's my story. And you know, it was just this like this love fest, this, you know, of just so much love and support, and like mostly just people in shock, just like I had no idea. And just wanting to rally around me and just thanking me and like I said, them, reciprocating and being like, you opened up and shared, I didn't know that about you. Here's something you don't know about me. And I, in turn, was very shocked and was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea you went through that. I cannot believe that it did not totally destroy you. Like, holy crap. Like, it was wonderful. Like, I say all this to say it was wonderful. It was beautiful. But having said all this, if I could go back and do it differently, I don't know that I would have opened up to all of my friends and family at the same time. Because it was a lot. And I think that right at first, like when you're just getting all the love and support, it's just like, oh my gosh, like it's liberating in a way. But like once all that kind of dies down, it's just kind of like, what did I just do? Because you can't undo that. Remember, I was talking about decisions in life that you can't undo. My total hysterectomy was one of them. Another one of them is when you reveal a big part of yourself to lots of people, lots of family and friends. Like if you're like right now, this is mostly strangers that are watching this. I don't know any of you on a personal level. And so it's easy for me, like if I were to post this and just be like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? And then just delete it and act like it never happened, but like, when I first started opening up about my traumas and like life experiences, it was like my friends and family, and like I still see a lot of these people on a regular basis. And so it's like, oh my gosh, these people like know these experiences that I've had, like they know this about me. It's part of my identity now, and it's a lot. It's a lot. But also, having said that, I am also the kind of person where like some people want to like slowly peel back the Band-Aid, put a damp cloth on it, pull it some more, take the time, be gentle. I'm the kind of person that is like, just rip the thing off. Like just rip the Band-Aid off. Just do it. If it's got to come off, just do it. I want to get it over with quickly. So there were parts about opening up all at once to so many people that were just kind of like overwhelming. But, and I don't know, like sometimes I want to say I would do it differently, but if I step back and like think about my personality, that's probably the way that it needed to happen, the only way it was gonna happen. And so, so that's what worked for me. And I didn't do it thinking that it was going to help me with my current addictions and compulsions and behaviors and my unhealthy relationship with food. Like I wasn't even thinking about that. I was going through a phase in my life where I was just working on me, I was just reading a lot of self-help books. I was doing a lot of journaling, a lot of introspection, a lot of processing and healing. And that just kind of came as an organic part of that process for me, where I just got to the point where it was like, I'm ready to share this. Don't force it. I think that would be my number one suggestion to anybody watching this, is that if you feel like, okay, this is part of my journey, I need to open up and share, don't force it. It came naturally to me. I naturally got to that point where I was comfortable and ready and it felt right. There was a lot that led up to that point though, like a lot. So yeah, don't go away from this video thinking, oh my gosh, I need to go on Instagram and just share my whole life story. Don't do that. Go find a self-help book that maybe relates to your life or certain traumas that you've been through. Read other people's experiences. Read books or watch TED Talks or listen to podcasts from professionals who specialize in that area, whether it's child abuse or addiction or like physical abuse, like whatever your traumas are, lean into that. Get professional therapy if you can. I know it's expensive. I couldn't afford it for most of my life. That's why I turned to self-help books, which are also beneficial, but if you can't afford it, definitely, get professional therapy. You don't always find the one the first time you go to somebody or the second or third time. Sometimes it takes a while to find the person who's your person, that you feel comfortable to open up to, that understands you, that can really help you and offer you the tools and resources that you personally need. So yeah, just be patient and just kind of start peeling back the layers for yourself. Do that first, and then you can kind of reveal that part of yourself to other people and be a source of strength and hope and inspiration and courage for them as well. So yeah, those are big triggers. And I tried to emphasize the ones that were the biggest ones. And I think, okay, let me try to narrow it down to 3. I would say trauma is top 3. Hormones are a top 3. And the third one is kind of a toss-up. I would say it's either comparison or boredom. It's I would say for me, because I grew up in a day and age where social media did not exist, I would say boredom was the bigger one for me. Just like not going out and like putting myself out there and connecting with others, and then because of that, getting bored and wanting to fill my time with other things like eating. And my unhealthy behaviors surrounding food. But these days, honestly, if I were growing up in these days, I would say comparison would be in the top 3 because of social media. Because back in the day, like I would compare myself to like celebrities in magazines and, you know, things like that. But I mean, honestly, a lot has changed since when I was growing up. I'm almost 36. A lot has changed since when I was, you know, a young woman in this world. There was no social media. And I basically just compared myself to Hollywood women or like women in my actual life. And women actually looked like normal people back then. Like nowadays, like there's so much fake. There's so much fake. Like they have fake eyelashes, fake lips with the fillers, fake injections in your face, fake hair, whether it's the color or extensions, fake nails, fake tans. And then you get into the surgeries and you've got people with fake chests and, you know, they've had facelifts and like, fake booties. Like there's just so much fake. And like this level of fakeness did not exist when I was a young woman. And so you're comparing yourself, yes, but you're comparing yourself to normal, natural women who, I mean, let's just be honest, like these BBLs and the implants and stuff, it's not natural. So like you're comparing yourself to people who look just like you for the most part, you know, but now these young women are comparing themselves to looks that women have not achieved naturally. And it's not fair because not everyone can afford that. Not every young woman can afford to buy all the hair extensions and the fake nails and the fake eyelashes and the fillers and the fake tans. Much less can every young woman afford the BBLs and the implants and the facelifts and I mean even the surgeries that they have, like the fox eye and stuff like that they do. You know, so majority of the world's population of women are comparing themselves to a very small population of the world that can actually afford these unnatural enhancements. And so it's not fair. So having given this long spiel, like if I were a young woman in the world today, those would be my top 3 is trauma, hormones, and social media / comparison, because they're the same thing, you know. But yeah, for me, it was boredom. Just like not putting myself out there. And I was, like I said, I had very low self-esteem. I am naturally introverted and lacking in social skills because of those things. And so I would get bored, but that was kind of a side effect of the low self-esteem, was because I would be bored because I would be home by myself and not wanting to put myself out there because I had low self-esteem. And you know, even I said stress is a boredom. And so like for someone who doesn't have the greatest social skills or who does struggle in social situations in general are stressful. So it's like a double whammy, you know, it's like you're just, yeah, so it was very hard for me. I don't feel like these triggers really apply to me as much anymore. I do feel like I have a very healthy relationship with food. I don't struggle with like getting out and putting myself out there. I love to connect with other people. I am still kind of growing because for a lot of my life, I was lacking in social skills and confidence socially. Like I feel like I'm confident as a person, but when it comes to social skills, I've definitely made huge improvement, but I still am not as confident socially as I would like to be. I'm growing in that area. But it's not a trigger for me to be social and to like go out and even like social events that involve food. It's not a trigger for me anymore. Like if anything these days, sometimes I worry like, are they gonna have food that I like? Like, you know, like I'm more of like a persnickety person when it comes to that. It's not so much like, oh gosh, there's gonna be food. I gotta make sure I don't eat too little. I gotta make sure I don't eat too much. And like, you know, there's not that kind of stress. It's more just like, and I do eat very healthy, but it's like a healthy version of eating healthy, because sometimes you can go too far, you know. But I basically just want to give my body what it needs, and I want to like love and respect my body. And so I do try to eat healthy and avoid putting things in my body that I know are going to hurt my body. But it's not because of how I look. It's not like, oh, I don't want to be fat, I don't want to be bloated, I don't want to, it's more like I want to feel good and be healthy. So yeah, that's more where I'm at. That's my mind space when I'm going to those kind of social events now. But yeah, I don't really get bored. I'm also a mom, so like you have to try really hard to be bored. But yeah, I have a busy life, and I get out more, don't really get bored. I mean, my traumas, I mean, they're still my traumas, you know, like I do still live with them and they do still affect me, but I have confronted and processed and healed from my traumas significantly. And so that has absolutely helped. They don't hold me down anymore. And then hormones, thank heavens, even that, because of my total hysterectomy, I don't deal with that anymore. I don't deal with the monthly onslaught of like that whole week leading up to my period. I would just be craving like sugar, chocolate, and carbs. And they're like so not healthy, and it would just exacerbate my eating disorder so much. Yeah, and I don't have that. I take estrogen every day. I take 1 milligram every morning of estrogen, but like I have like a steady amount of hormones. My hormones aren't doing this all month long where my body's going through ovulation and like, you know, like I'm just steady. And I have to say that that has helped immensely. And then even just not having the mood swings, because I would get the PMS and sometimes even the PMDD for the week leading up to my period. And that was tough because depression and anxiety are also a trigger. And so I would be having cravings, I would be having the hormones, I would be having the bloating, and then I'd have the stress from just the anxiety and depression I would feel for that whole week. And then like you think about it, like that's only a week out of the month, but the effects of that hell week, as many of us women come to call that week, the effects of that hell week last far beyond that week, you know? And it's just taxing to go through that every month. It's just like, so yeah. So life is definitely much easier now, not having those major triggers. Yeah, so anybody that is currently struggling with this issue, hopefully you feel like understood, like seen, heard, validated. For anyone that has a loved one, family, friend, associate, acquaintance, colleague, whatever, that has an eating disorder, whether you know it or you suspect it, maybe this will help you to be a little bit more understanding and compassionate that it's a multifaceted disorder, that and the triggers are very broad. And that's what we deal with on a daily basis. So yeah, that is my video about triggers, and I'll do another video sometime talking about a different aspect of it. But thank you for watching, and I hope that this helps somebody. Again, I will put a disclaimer, but I am very, very truly sorry if anything that I said triggered somebody. That was not my intention. I just want to help. So I hope that that is what I did. So thank you.